Despite being one of the most popular visual novel series of all time, it's pretty much universally agreed on that the original Ace Attorney Trilogy all share the same flaw. The third case is usually the worst in the game. Not that the cases are bad, just that they're the weakest narratively, and sometimes in terms of fun. I'll be listing a couple reasons why this is in this video, and then ranking the three cases from worst to best and explaining why. The first reason is plot relevance. This actually isn't really a thing in the first game because it gives us Edgeworth's face turn and the introduction of Old Bag. But if you removed the third cases from Justice for All and Trials and Tribulations, you'd still have a coherent plot. Seriously, let's try it using Trials and Tribulations as an example. If we look at everything each case does for the story, we'll see an obvious weak point. First, Turnabout Memories. Introduces the main villain of the game and gives proper backstory for Phoenix and Mia that comes into play later. Second, the Stolen Turnabout. It introduces Godot, who is the main prosecutor for the rest of the game. Third, Recipe for Turnabout. Godot can't see red, the judge is an idiot. Turnabout Beginnings gives backstory for Mia, Godot, and Dahlia, making the final case feel a lot more complete. And finally, Bridge to the Turnabout. It serves as the finale for the entire series up to this point. I think it's pretty obvious that the third case is the weak point, and we could easily remove it from the game and still have the plot make perfect sense, as long as you explain that Godot can't see red, as that comes into play later in Bridge to the Turnabout. The other main reason I have is that the investigations feel long and kind of boring sometimes, lacking many interesting characters beyond face value. For example, what's this girl's name? They don't even give her a speaking role in the anime. Like, the trials are easily the high point of every Ace Attorney game, and it's pretty hard to mess those up, but the investigations can get really tedious, especially in third trials. Why does Turnabout Samurai have to go all 3 days? That's just useless investigation. It's entirely a filler case until the end, to be honest. At least it had some sort of payoff, unlike the next two with Edgeworth's development. Now to ranking the three. Unlike some people, I don't think Turnabout Big Top is a bad case. In fact, I don't hate any cases in the series, but it's still my least favorite. I mean, one of the main conflicts between characters is at best unethical. Given that the center of a love triangle between your defendant and a 31-year-old witness is a teenager, it certainly doesn't do the case any favors. The characters at the circus are pretty annoying, especially Mo. Phoenix's jokes were funny, dude. Speaking of annoying, the song that's playing in the background right now. It's played so often in this case. I honestly think that the end of this case and the murder method are solid and creative enough on their own. It's just what it took to get there wasn't so solid. Acro is a good sympathetic villain and true pain is a great theme, but it doesn't mean that Big Top is a great case. It could easily be skipped for a first-time player and the game would have no problems. Well, except for being too short. Though I will be a little more lenient on it because Justice for All as a game has very few self-contained overarching plot elements, but that's a topic for another video. I gave Edgeworth's face turn some props, more on that later, before, but even that isn't enough to save Turnabout Samurai. Sure, it gave us a recurring character that we'd see throughout the series, and you can't really remove it from the original game since it does have narrative relevance. The main reason it's such a poor case is the fact that the trial had to go on all 3 days. I said this before, but it's true. It could have been rewritten and made a 2-day trial with absolutely no problems, since it isn't like it's a grand finale case or anything. It's purely a filler case, but the length makes it seem like it's far more grand. Nothing really comes from the first day of investigation, and there's so much moving around that it adds a ton of time to it and the other investigation segments. Going into some of the better elements of this case, well, one of them, Edgeworth. Edgeworth is hilarious in this case. This is the beginning of his character arc, but one thing I thought the original release of the first game could have done better was to have one more case between Sisters and Samurai of Edgeworth just being a general asshole like he is in Sisters and Memories and Trials and Tribulations. I understand why they couldn't, but it would have done his arc a little better. As for the villain, Dee Vasquez is kind of forgettable in the grand scheme of things. I like how she gives up at the end, and the fact that her crime is self-defense makes her unique, but she isn't very memorable like I said. Now that I've had to rank these three cases, I realize that they're a lot closer in my opinion than I thought they'd be. I nearly wrote myself into switching Samurai in what I'll argue is the best case, Recipe for Turnabout. I really like how ridiculous some of this case is. Phoenix has some moments that are funnier than anything in Turnabout Big Top. But like Big Top, there isn't really any relevance to the plot. I already showed earlier you could remove it and still have a great game. I think I might be overrating it slightly because of how much I love Trials and Tribulations, but I really think it's the best third case. Though the premise for this chapter is kinda stupid. If the judge is really that much of an idiot to mistake this guy for Phoenix, how many people has he unfairly gotten executed or put in prison? As for the villain, very memorable just based off of his appearance. Really goes with the ridiculous thing I mentioned earlier. Seriously, what is that shirt? Is he searching for the Dragon Balls? On a closing note, this case has the most underrated song in the trilogy in my opinion, Reminiscence, What the Others Have Seen. I would also like to add that the way that they catch Furio Tigre by getting him to admit his own murder is absolute genius and something that I don't think we've seen before or since that. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like if you'd like to see another video like this. This is the first time I've ever actually scripted out an entire video and then recorded it like myself, so it was kind of tough. Please leave constructive criticism in the comments, like no just bashing me saying this video sucks. I'd really like to find out how to improve because I'd like to continue to make these kinds of videos on games that I like. If you're a fan of Ace Attorney and you'd like to see me talk about something else, please leave your recommendations down in the comments. Again, thank you, please like and subscribe.